Right, next we're going to have a look at Broadbean integration with HRS Connect. And currently I'm on a job record, we can see at the top of the screen, and I filled in a few bits of information for the job, so things like the job title, the location, the salary. I've also put in a summary underneath in the details tab, and we can see that the job is connected to a company over on the right hand side and a hiring manager. If I now want to send this job to my job boards, if I go and click on the Broadbean tab at the bottom on the left, it will actually populate, it's not quite a lot of information from the actual fields that I've already filled in. Further down though, you need to make sure you fill in the industry, the country and the location. These are actually Broadbean drop-down values, not values that are actually in the database. So for example, when I click on that, you can see these are slightly different to the database values. So sales I've already selected, as you can see, and the same with country. These are all Broadbean's countries, so I've already selected England, and then when you select England, the location underneath changes to show you all the English locations that are set up on Broadbean. So you need to make sure that those three fields are populated. Also you need to make sure that things like the currency, salary high, and things like that are also populated. If you haven't populated something that needs to be, then an error message will come up in a minute telling you. And then the first thing I need to do is, using this little table on the right hand side, is bring in the job boards that I can subscribe to. So if I click on the plus, and you can see that it will bring in two job boards that I can post this job onto, Broadbean and Jobs Cabinet. Now, the destinations that appear in this list are purely dependent on your settings in the admin area of the database, so you can actually put in your job board URL, login and password, and then that will obviously give you access to the job boards that you can post the advert to. So I've got two destinations that I can post the job to, and then once I'm ready to post it, I need to click the little Broadbean icon in the top right hand corner of this area, and just click continue, and then it will come up with a little preview window, and this is basically saying, do you still want to post it to Jobs Cabinet and Broadbean? If I change my mind at this point, I can just purely click on the tick to switch it off or switch it back on again. So I'm just going to click continue to that and move through to the next page. So this is basically the Broadbean advert. Red asterisks are mandatory fields, so you must make sure they're filled in. And you can see that all the information I put on the job record underneath has just been brought through. And there is the summary as well. So I'm not going to edit anything on there. I'm just going to go straight to the bottom and click continue. Then I get a summary of the advertisement, and if I scroll down at the bottom, it allows me to define when to deliver it and who the contact details for this advert are, and also how many days to post it for on those respective job boards at the bottom. So again, I'm going to keep it as it is and hit send advert. And then you can see that I get a tick for both, so I know that it's been posted to both those job boards. So if I just click outside this window, I return back to the database inside the job record, and then I'm just going to refresh those destinations just by clicking on the little curly arrow, and we can see that it's now been delivered, and it tells me obviously the date and the time that it's been delivered, etc. And obviously I've got no responses to either of those job boards at the moment. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into the Jobs Cabinet advert and I'm going to apply for it. And then we're going to see how I can bring those applications down into the database. So I'm going to click on the arrow just to the left of Jobs Cabinet, and it will just bring up a test job board that we have set up to use for training purposes. And there is a little sort of synopsis of the job. So I'm going to click the apply button and I'm going to apply for it. And this is really what a candidate would see when they were applying for a job through a job board. So I'm going to type in a name of Jennifer Lopez, her email address, not sure about her phone number, but then I'm going to click choose file, and I'm going to choose a Word document to use as my CV. So there we go, Jennifer Lopez, and open to attach that to my application. And then I'm just going to obviously say, yes, I'm currently eligible to work. And then click Apply Now. And we get the thank you for submitting your application message underneath. So if I just click outside that window to close it down, and then back in my actual job record, if I want to see how many responses I've obviously now got, if I just go back and click the refresh arrow, then it will connect to those two job boards, and there you can quite clearly see that I've now had one response to the Jobs Cabinet board. Now, before I download the applications that I've had, you need to decide whether or not you want to download only those that you green flag, yellow flag, or you unflag or unrank. And I'm going to define that I only want to download applicants that I'm going to flag as being green or good. And what I'm now going to do is go onto my Broadbean test website, and I'm going to look at that application from Jennifer Lopez, and I'm going to flag it green and then bring it down into the database. So I'm going to open up Broadbean, and I'm going to, once I'm in Broadbean, go and manage my adverts. And here we can see the job that I've just been looking at, and over on the left hand side we can see that I've had one response, and if I click on the one, it will take me in and show me the actual applicant. It also attaches obviously their CV that they uploaded, and I can view that by clicking on the magnifying glass if I want to take a quick look. Now this is just Broadbean, and in Broadbean you can rank your candidates either red, yellow or green. So I've looked at her CV and I think she's a very good candidate, so I'm going to flag her by clicking on the green flag icon on her record. And then I'm just going to log out of Broadbean, and then I'm going to go back into my database underneath. Now I've obviously got the fact that I should download only green flagged candidates selected over on the right hand side. If they're green flagged candidates, then they will be brought down onto the shortlist within the job itself. If they're amber, they will come down and be put onto the long list. But it doesn't matter which list you're on when you do this. Either list, you can see you've still got this little Broadbean icon again at the top, and that will retrieve any applicants and put them onto the long list or the short list. So I'm going to go and click the Broadbean icon now, and then that will connect to the Jobs Cabinet job board and pull down any candidates who I marked as green. And like I say, because green goes onto the short list, I don't actually see anybody on the long list, but if I now go to the short list, I can see Jennifer Lopez has now been added onto the short list. I can see she's obviously green flagged because the green flag icon comes down with the application. And then if I click on the arrow to the left of her record, it will take me into Jennifer Lopez's record, which it's created from her application. And if I go to her docs and CV text, I can see the CV that she attached in her application quite clearly in here. Now, because she didn't already exist on the database until she applied for the job through my job board, we can see that it's actually created a record for her on the database, and it's actually parsed from her attached CV. So if I go back to my job again at the top, back on my shortlist, then obviously Jennifer Lopez is still sat there. If I go back to my Broadbean tab at the bottom, then obviously I can still see the number of responses. And again, if I think, let's say tomorrow I want to just refresh to see if I've had any more responses, I just come onto this tab, click the refresh arrow, and obviously it will tell me if I've had any more responses over on the right. And then I can go and flag them appropriately on Broadbean and then download them again into my database. And that's Broadbean integration in HRS Connect.